out of marginal improvements in isolated institutions. There is simply not enough synergy in that. There's not enough ripple effect. There's not enough to transform a city's attitude about itself if you add a curatorial department at your art museum and you add a natatorium at your favorite prep school, and you added 3 positions to the symphony. Just one don't happen. Marginal improvements, isolated institutions don't add up to anything, so they can consume all of your resources. There are always needs of all kinds, social service and so forth. And he was willing to say, I'm not going to address that. I want this foundation to be about the fundamental issue of how Chattanooga feels about itself, what Chattanooga wants for its future. And I want to help the city become the place that has a future that isn't just a diminished version of what its past was. And I knew that the job had just been redesigned. And I asked him, what would that look like? What would our organization be doing that's different from what we have been doing? And his answer to me was, I don't know. That's why I hired you. And either you or your successor will figure it out. As I say, a thrilling job. And the heart races and the mind begins to spin, and you begin to think, okay, this is fundamentally a different kind of institution that has a different sense of mission. And we have to do some study of what thriving cities are like. What makes them thriving places and dynamic economies and places that have self-respect, places where people have a sense of the future that is compelling enough to make them want to invest their time, give their money, invest their money, because nobody likes to invest in a simple show. It's just not fun. It's going to go down under. They want to invest in a rise and star. And how do you create a sense in the community that it is a rising star? So our first step was to try to learn from other cities. We went to Indianapolis, we went to Portland, Oregon, and Asheville, North Carolina, and several different places, each of which had its own particular way in which it had either come back from the brink or stepped up to a new level. One of the things that I noticed in those visits was that the places that I admired the most were ones that had found a way to affirm its essential character, to believe in its own unique identity or place in this world, and then insist upon excellence in everything they do out of respect for that unique and wondrous place. Now, if you live in Appalachia, as I do, you know that this is an exceptionally hard task. There are no known positive stereotypes for Appalachian people. There's never been a positively represented Appalachian person on any television program that you've ever seen. It is a marginalized and discredited band of gators. And you feel that. You feel the scorn of people when you go to other places. A lot of times, if you bought into that. One of our first projects, which I think, now people make too much of it. They make too much of it for the wrong reasons. But we built a freshwater aquarium on the banks of the Tennessee River. The only freshwater aquarium that had ever been built. Much skepticism. Bass tank. What's there going to be to see there? And our determination, in part, was to create an icon that lifted up for Appalachian region than almost any other place. That was something that we hadn't thought about ourselves as we looked at jet clapping. It was a new recognition. Now, yeah, we went out kayaking, we did stuff like this, but it wasn't part of our internal self-estimation that we lived in an extraordinary place in the world, and that you could attract people there to see it exhibited in some manner. Exhibited, in fact, in a world-class manner. We raised $45 million private funds to build that aquarium. By far the biggest project ever undertaken in the city at that time. All of it private money. There was a public plaza around it that was funded by the state. But there was so much skepticism among the electorate that the city and the county were unwilling to put a dime into this because there was just a frenzy of naysayers who were afraid that this was going to be a burden on the backs of the taxpayers. And we heard a frenzy of concern from those institutions whose proposals we had turned down, who said, if you go out and do this and try to attract money to this, we're not going to be able to fund our own operations. You're putting us at risk by doing this thing. We tried to say, as Jack Lupton had said, every institution is at risk in a city in decline. And every institution will benefit from a city that is dynamic and successful. It takes a while to get there, but there's no choice but to do the investments that will get us to that place. Now, the truth is that during the 5 years that we raised that money, and it tapped everybody significantly, those other institutions, the Art Museum and the prep schools and the First Presbyterian Church and so forth, all raised more money than they had ever raised in any 5-year period in their lives. And it's almost confounding how that could be so. But my reading of it is that when people feel that there's positive momentum, people give more than they would under less favorable circumstances. In other words, there's always more money that you're willing to invest, particularly when you're down. I liken this to my metaphorical reading of the story of the loaves and the fishes, which comes from the Christian holy book, where a group of people were gathered around a seaside, and there's no preaching is over, time to eat is at hand, and there's no food. And everybody is kind of anxious about where you're going to get something to eat. And you can believe whatever you want to believe about what happened next. But one reading of this is that there was actually food present. But it was in hiding. Because you were afraid if you showed people that you had a loaf of bread, they might want some of it. And it took a transformation of spirit before there could be a transformation in the flesh. So, it took somebody to stand forth and say, bring forth all that you have, and it will be enough. I will tell you in this community, as in any community, you have enough. People have come and looked at our river and they say, oh, our river is not that great. Water is magical, mystical. Every river has its own unique identity. Don't get seduced by somebody else's river. You've got fabulous rivers here. I would love to get engaged in how to lift those up to a place of greater use and respect in this community. And I know some of you feel that as well.